In Minecraft, building is perhaps the most fundamental part of the game, right next to mining and crafting. Whether you're building your first shelter on day 1, or putting the final touches on a medieval town in your 5-year hardcore world, building is something that all players engage in during their playtime. Personally, I fell in love with the game solely due to your ability to build anything you want so long as you can imagine it. But the more you play the game, especially in recent years and with the latest updates, one thing becomes abundantly clear. There are a lot of blocks in the game, specifically a lot of blocks to build with, which on the surface doesn't really seem like the biggest problem. I mean, more variety means more opportunities for players to stretch their creativity, but with that option comes a slight issue. What blocks should you build your next project with? That doesn't seem like the hardest question to answer, but when you get down into it, one concept makes this kinda hard to answer and your next build's block palette even more difficult to pick. Overchoice, and more specifically, the idea of choice paralysis. Overchoice, sometimes referred to as choice overload, is a phenomenon that occurs when someone has difficulty picking an option from a huge number of other options. More specifically, the more options of something someone has to choose from, the harder their choice becomes. In the context of Minecraft, the huge abundance of block options to choose from when planning your next build is the easiest way you can face overchoice when playing the game. I mean, it's bad enough when you start to doubt if your idea for a project is any good, but it's even worse when you can't decide which blocks to make the build with in the first place. This problem can become even worse with a number of other overchoice-induced factors, such as which biome you're going to build in, whether or not you'll use accent blocks or gradients, if you're building your project too close to another one, and so on and so forth. So when you get down into it, there's a lot of problems and factors you may question yourself about when starting a new project, but the most common one that players tragically find themselves pondering over is simply which blocks they're going to use for the build. On the other side of the coin is choice paralysis, or what is sometimes called analysis paralysis. Oh great, I think my couch just started floating. With overchoice, the problem is simply having too many choices to pick from, which may eventually sort itself out when you just decide to wing it and blindly choose an option. But with choice paralysis, a decision is usually not even made, since you might find yourself sitting there debating between every option to the point where you just can't make a proper decision, or you might even be worried about choosing the quote-unquote wrong option, stopping yourself before you can make a single choice. For many Minecraft players, choice paralysis can be a common issue. When building, you may be so concerned about how good your block palette will look to the point where you reconsider and change your block options for minutes, or sometimes hours on end. In fact, you may weigh your options too many times, ultimately burning yourself out and never starting your project in the first place. So at this point, it's pretty clear that overchoice and choice paralysis are pretty common problems Minecraft players might face in a typical building process. In fact, you, yes you, the one watching this video, may have had these issues yourself. But with every problem, there's a solution. So how can we solve and eliminate the problems of overchoice and choice paralysis in Minecraft? Well, I have a few ideas that might work. The first is to take a page out of the Villager's book and use blocks native to the biome you're building your project in. This helps eliminate potential fatigue and concern over which blocks will look good for your project, since these blocks will automatically blend in quite well with the biome you're working in. In this case, it doesn't really matter what your project is, since whatever you're building will fit in nicely with the surrounding environment. This is probably the easiest solution I have, since the blocks necessary for your build are laid out right in front of you to choose from. But personally, I find it the most helpful since many of the projects I work on use blocks native to a particular biome, and overall, I'm quite happy with the results. The second idea I have is to go into a creative world and practice making your project there. Now, this idea works best if you're planning to make your actual project in a survival world, but if you do plan on making it in creative after all, then you've got more than enough time and resources on your hand to experiment. Anyway, practicing and experimenting with all sorts of building techniques and block palettes is much easier in creative modes since you have access to every block in the game as opposed to survival, where you'll have to go out of your way to gather every resource you need before building. So in creative, when you find the best blocks for your build and like the overall design for your project, you'll know exactly what you'll need for your actual project. So you can go back into your survival world, gather everything up you need, and get to work on the same design you made in creative. I'd say that in general, this is the most helpful technique for the majority of players. There's no rush to find a design that you like, and you have access to every block in the game stress-free. Lastly, maybe try going on YouTube and looking at what other people have built. There are several types of Minecraft videos there, ranging from tutorials that can help you create a build step by step, to full-on Let's Plays that help other players show you what ideas they've come up with, to maybe help inspire you for your own project. Whatever you're interested in making, there's more than likely a video online to help you get going on the right track. Most importantly though, don't be too upset if your build doesn't look exactly like what someone else has made. We've all got our own building styles and block preferences, so whatever you're making doesn't have to be 100% identical or accurate to another person's build. So in general, Minecraft is a fun game that allows everyone to express their creativity, but for certain players, overchoice and choice paralysis can be pesky mindsets that hinder their enjoyment of the game. I mean, this game is all about building and creating whatever you want, so players being halted from continuing their progress on projects in-game just isn't a good thing. The suggestions I made just a bit ago may help players get their creative juices flowing again, but I do want to say one thing. There's nothing wrong with losing creativity or taking your time to plan everything out before starting your next build. Do whatever it takes to get back into the mood for building and playing the game, even if that means taking a break from Minecraft for a bit. Just know that you're totally fine doing whatever necessary to get back into the building spirit, and keep in mind that Minecraft's building problem, while a real issue for some, isn't always the end of the world for you and your next project.